I'm sorry to hog the interview for so long. I do want to open it up to questions from the audience because there are hardcore Hiaasen fans here. Over here.
Yes. Are there any groups in Florida which don't like your writing and who manifest that?
Oh, are there any groups in Florida who don't like my writing and manifested that? I mean, I know there are lots of people who don't. And they're enemies I'm proud to have, most of them. But, you know, I think they're not organized. I think there's a lot of politicians who don't like what I write in the newspaper, and I think there are a lot of Chamber of Commerces who probably don't like some of the messages in the books. But not manifest. You know, I get the cranky letters and things like that, but I don't get any. You know, I don't get like any, you know, flaming skulls in the mail.
How about when you're writing for the
Excuse
paper?
me?
How about when you're writing for the paper?
Oh yeah, the paper brings out the mutant factor pretty good. Yeah, anytime you write for a newspaper, you get those guys that write in Crayola. Yeah, and I also I get a fair amount of prison mail, but it's very positive. Prison mail is usually very positive. Yeah.
Striptease didn't work out too well as a movie, but I think that your books are pretty cinematic. Is there anything in the pipeline?
The comment was a Striptease didn't work out that well as a movie, and you're right. It's not often compared to Citizen Kane, but anything in the pipeline. You know, there's always talk and there's always stuff going on. Nothing imminent and nothing. You know, I'd be surprised if anything turned into anything. I mean, you're always talking. They're always making offers. And
did you have fun working on Striptease?
I didn't do any work on Striptease. I mean, I had fun. I went to a photo session with Demi, where she was going to be Martha Washington on the cover of George magazine, which was published by John Kennedy Jr. And they didn't tell me she was going to be a topless Martha Washington. I'd done some history. You know, I mean, I didn't remember Martha looking exactly like that from the old lithographs I saw, but nonetheless, I rolled with that. And, she had a little shawl on, but she was painted patriotically, but that was, I mean, everyone on that set was very, very nice to me. Bert and to me and Bing Rames, they were all great, and the director Andy Bergman's a great screenwriter and a great director. But you know, when you get that call that says, "Oh, by the way, we're having to reshoot the ending," you know, then your next call is to your accountant saying, "Did the check clear? Because this isn't going well."
I've always thought the way to treat one of your books would be like a BBC 4-hour film, like crime suspect films. But
yeah, I mean, I think it's so unusual because a lot of the humor is in the narrative tone of the novels. And it's a tough thing to put up on the screen. There are scenes that are very cinematic, and they kept a couple in that movie. I mean, the scene with Burt Reynolds, he's slathered in Vaseline and he's wearing his cowboy boots. That's an epic moment. That they're not going to show that at the Academy Awards in the retrospective, I suspect, but it made me glad that they kept the Vaseline scene. I didn't have to argue for that. I mean, I go for the warped and the sick stuff is what I really like to preserve, but they're tough. I mean, it's easy to sit here and bash screenwriters or producers or directors, but these are tough books, and I've had scripts written on a lot of the books, and I will say that for the most part, I'm probably lucky that they weren't made finally into movies.
Do you ever wonder what actress or actor would fit the character? Because when I'm reading your books, I'm saying, oh, this person would be great as this actor.
I never do that. That's true. I don't think in terms of, because I think there's a danger. If I was writing a character, especially in the early part of a novel, like Cherry Pie, I have no idea. But if I got that in my head that, oh, I'm envisioning a certain actress or a certain somebody, I think that then it would affect the evolution of that character and the way I wrote that character. And to be honest, I know writers who do exactly that. That the books are really sort of an inflated version of a screenplay, and they're waiting for it to be made into a movie. In my case, I think it would slow me down because I'm still learning about these. I mean, I'm learning about them as I write them. I don't have the whole picture in my mind, and when the book is done and you know, you have meetings in Hollywood and they throw names around. I mean, when Skinny Dip was optioned by Mike Nichols, who's one of my favorite directors, I got to spend 2 days in New York with Mike and Elaine May, and it was just a riot. I mean, it was just like one of my dreams. But, you know, the project ended up fizzling because Tom Hanks came along and wanted to do Charlie Wilson's War, and that's what Mike ended up doing. But all we did for those 2 days was really talk about actors and actresses, and you know, and he's using his first name. You want me to call Julia? You know, I'm going, Julia, you know, Roberts. But yeah, give her a holler. Tell her I'm here. So I mean, that's sort of, you know, the little fantasy world. But authors are generally not included, and they really don't want you around. And it's not because they don't like you. It's just because it's going to change. A manuscript that might have been 450 pages is going to have to be boiled down to a screenplay that's maybe 105. It ain't going to be the same. There's no way.
Well, I'm not talking about the story plot. I'm talking about your great characters that you create. Do you ever see like, oh, this actor would be great? It doesn't have to be a name actor. It could be a character actor.
No, exactly. Well, usually if I'm done and the discussions are going on, then I can say who I don't want. But I honestly don't have any, I really don't think like that when I'm working on the book at all. I don't. I think it would slow me down. I don't.
Emmett Walsh could play Bang Abbott.
Yeah, there's a lot of people could play.
Way in the back.
So do you write character bios for your characters, or I think you just said that you...
Yeah, I start with kind of a list with the characters, and they're not full bios, but maybe a paragraph, somebody that's in, I'll clip a thing out of the newspaper, and I'll say, God, I'd love to spin that into some sort of character. I think the idea for this paparazzo came about because at one point, he becomes obsessed with this little pop tartlet, as they call them in Hollywood. And at some point, they end up on a plane together in some sort of position. And as unlikely and as improbable as it sounds, but I had remembered years earlier that Britney Spears had started dating one of the paparazzo that was hanging outside her house. And I thought, that's brilliant. You know. But I thought, no, you could have some fun with that. But so I might have clipped it out, paragraph, something off the internet. I mean, I just put things together, like an example in Skinny Dip. There's a guy named Tool who breaks into nursing homes and medical facilities, and he steals fentanyl patches off of patients who are getting this heavy-duty narcotic, post-op or sometimes terminal patients. They put these fentanyl patches, a heavy-duty drug, and he was ripping them off. He was sticking them all over his body. He shaved his body because it was really hairy, and he just had these, and he'd go running out. He was a complete dope fiend. But you know, people after that book came out said, that is really twisted and sick, and you're not well. And I got this clipping out of the Herald of a guy who was putting on hospital scrubs and sneaking in and peeling these fentanyl patches off these poor patients and doing it. I mean, I wish I'd made it up. I didn't make it up. That's the sort of thing. So you say that. This is the what-if game that you play. Okay, what if there was a guy? What would propel him to that extreme? And then as the novelist, you take off on that and you build a character around that one little thing. Big thing, actually.
Tool's backyard decorations, the road crosses.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who always said when we would drive down in the Keys, you know, they put up the road crosses where there's been these horrible fatalities, you know, and they're just like, oh my God, you know, and they kind of bum you out after a while. And he said, my dream, he says, I'm going to start digging these up, and I'm going to make my whole backyard is going to have these crosses. And my friend said this to me, and I just stole that idea. And I said, that's my kind of idea. He's the same guy that collects human skulls, and which apparently there's some laws about that. But anyway, and I had in a book I did called Stormy Weather, I had a guy that juggled some human skulls. And he didn't juggle them, but he does have a collection. I thought he could juggle them. And so that's how it did. Yeah.